So, first person I'd like to invite up to the mic this evening is Mr. David Finney, and a little bit about David. He is the youngest of 3 brothers, 2 of whom were born overseas. His middle brother was born in Japan before the war, and he was born in Medellin, Colombia, South America. There we go. Medellin. Forgive me, it's been a while. I'm a little rusty. Do you want a copy? His parents were missionaries, or as my wife likes to say, they were drug-running missionaries. Really? Dave grew up in Oregon and Indiana, and for the past 31 years has lived in the northwest suburbs here in Chicago. Would you please help me welcome David Finney to the stage?
In case you missed the reference, Medellin used to be the drug capital of the world. Hence, drug running missionaries.
She's too young to know.
Right. I think all of us at one point in our lives have been kind of awestruck about either a hobby or some kind of sporting technique where we've gone all in to be our best at it, to get the best equipment, the real American way that we do things. And I was one of those people. And the sporting event that I took up was bicycling. And I did it a lot as a kid, and I got back to it as an adult. And it's one of those things where you begin at 5 or 10 miles, and that seems, like a long, long way. Pretty soon you're doing 25, and then you're doing 50, and go beyond that. Well, there was a day several years ago that I was cruising down the Lakeshore path along Lakeshore Drive. And I was on my way to Montrose Harbor. Montrose Harbor was to be the end of a 6-day cycling event that started in Minneapolis and ended up at Montrose Harbor in Chicago. And that was the furthest I had ever ridden. I had never ridden 6 days in succession, let alone 500 miles. And so I was feeling pretty good as I was cruising down, headed towards Montrose Harbor. As I got nearer, I could hear cheers as people ahead of me were coming in. And by the time I got there, it just seemed like the cheers were thunderous. And I don't know if they were actually thunderous or if it was just my heart beating in my ears, but it seemed loud. And I was part of a group of 1,200 people that I believe it was the last age ride from Minneapolis to Chicago. And there were 1,200 of us that did that trek. And as I came in to the ending place, I could see most of us were happy, we were joyful, hugging each other that we had made it. But there were several on the ground that were groaning and moaning. I remember someone saying that, I don't know why I did this. This was horrible. It sucked. So either in the beginning or somewhere along the line, they lost all that desire, but they stuck it out at least until the very end. But it was a fun ride because there were always new people to meet. You could start the day with new people, and as you rode, either your energy levels would drop, and so you would drop behind, or you would catch up with slower riders. So there was always somebody new to meet, to talk to. And one of the questions that was asked an awful lot is, why are you here? And so I would tell them, I'm here writing for my brother, who died a couple of years earlier as a result of AIDS. And so I'm here supporting him and supporting those that are in the middle and those that may be a part of AIDS in the future. And he looked at me and he said, I'm just here for the challenge. He says, I don't feel like I'm a part of it. But part of what we had to do was to raise money. You know, we had to raise a minimum of $1,500 to be a part of it. So I asked him, I said, boy, you raised the money, didn't you? And he said, yeah. And I said, well, you're doing your part. So it was very interesting. We had all ages. I met, I'm running out of time already. A 12-year-old that was riding with his father, and all the way to an 84-year-old woman who was there for her son who had AIDS. She didn't ride, but she was in the serving line, and she always had this joyful face that was always happy, encouraging, and if you needed more food, right on your plate it would go. So I never really knew my brother. There was about 10 years difference between the two of us. And I'm trying to cut some things out here. So I really never knew my brother. And I never got a sense of who he was until his death. The division was so deep in the family that he did not want anybody at his funeral other than his son. And so I really didn't find out about him until he was a professor who taught the classics, Latin and Greek mythology. And the school had a memorial service for him. And I walked into this auditorium that was filled. There had to be 200 to 300 people there, colleagues and students. Then they started telling their stories of how he was a part of their lives. He was a friend. He would spend all the time people would need if they needed help. And so I left that, seeing another side. But as an adult, I only remember being with my brother 2 times. It was at my dad's funeral and at my father's 80th birthday. Or my mother's 80th birthday. Life was hard for him. I remember that. There was a lot of anger at my parents. He was a perfectionist, so he was always keeping his eye on myself and my brother. I learned to stay out of his way. He played the cello. He was a part of the local symphony. And that was his way of showing a part of him. He played incessantly at home. So between the arguing and noise, there was always noise going on. But one day, the noise stopped, and my brother was gone. One day turned into 3 days. The week turned into 2 weeks. And on and on and on. I remember either my brother or myself asking my mother, when is Ed coming back? She sadly said, I don't know. Well, they asked, well, where did he go? She didn't know. Thank you.
Here's what I know, Dave. You and I have spent quite a bit of time together in the past 9 months. And you've been kind enough and gracious enough and brave enough to share the stories of your brother with me personally. And for that, I'm truly grateful. And I, in this place, want to recognize the courage that it takes to stand up here and to tell that story, because I know the healing that had to happen for you to be able to do what you just did. So I want to acknowledge that in you. Can we help acknowledge him as well, please?